Ladies and gentlemen, cricket has always been described as more than a game. It is called a gentleman's sport, a contest of spirit, skill and respect. Yet when it comes to matches between India and Pakistan, we often witness a different picture. The tension is palpable, the atmosphere is electric, but the simple act of shaking hands before and after the match often becomes a question mark. Why does this happen? Why is it that players who play the same game, breathe the same cricketing air, and share the same passion cannot exchange this universal gesture of sportsmanship? Today, I want to highlight three key reasons behind this. The first, and perhaps most powerful reason why Indian and Pakistani players often cannot shake hands before and after matches is because of the overwhelming political weight that overshadows the rivalry. To an outsider, cricket is just a sport, a contest of bat and ball where players compete and then show mutual respect. But for these two nations, cricket has always been entangled with history, wars, disputes, and unresolved issues that stretch far beyond the boundary ropes. The pitch becomes more than just a sporting field. It becomes a symbolic battlefield where every shot and every wicket is interpreted as a reflection of national pride. In such an environment, something as simple as a handshake is not seen as just a sporting courtesy. It can be twisted, magnified, and misread by millions who view the game as an extension of political identity. Think about the pressure that a player carries when he walks out to represent his nation in this rivalry. He is not only carrying his own career and personal performance, but also the expectations of millions back home, as well as the weight of his country's political history. When a player stretches out his hand to the opponent, to some people it becomes a sign of friendship, to others a gesture of weakness, and to yet others it feels like a political statement. In that sense, a handshake becomes far heavier than its true intention. It is no longer simply about respect between athletes. It is seen as a reflection of how two rival nations relate to each other. That is the burden politics has placed on cricket between these two countries. And when we look back at how both countries' relations have often been shaped by mistrust, security concerns, and moments of conflict, it is easier to understand why cricketers hesitate. They know that one handshake can dominate headlines, spark debates on television screens, and even draw criticism from the most passionate voices. The ground becomes charged with symbolism, and players are caught in the middle of forces that are beyond their control. They don't avoid the handshake because they lack respect for their opponents. They avoid it because they know that in this rivalry, every move, every gesture is scrutinized with political eyes. Until politics and sport can be separated, this invisible barrier will continue to loom, making even the most basic sign of sportsmanship, a handshake, feel like a difficult act. The second reason why Indian and Pakistani players avoid shaking hands before and after matches lies in the immense emotional expectations of the fans who see cricket not just as a sport, but as a matter of pride, identity, and even honor. In South Asia, cricket is not followed casually, it is lived passionately. Millions of people across both nations sit glued to their screens, their hearts beating faster with every delivery, their emotions riding the highs and lows of every single run. For them, victory is not just about winning a game, it is about proving supremacy, protecting dignity, and in many ways avenging history. In this kind of climate, players know that even the smallest gestures can be blown out of proportion and interpreted in ways they never intended. A simple handshake, a smile, or a pat on the back to an opponent can ignite debates, spark outrage, and in some cases even draw harsh criticism from their own fans. This pressure weighs heavily on the cricketers. They are aware that they represent more than their own careers. They are the face of their nation for those 100 overs or 5 days of battle. Every action they take is magnified under the microscope of fan passion, when supporters expect nothing less than total dedication, total aggression, and absolute loyalty to the flag. Showing warmth to the opponent can be misunderstood as betrayal. Fans want to see their players as warriors, not diplomats. They want fire in their eyes, not handshakes with rivals. And because the emotional stakes are so high, players often decide it is safer to stay away from these gestures rather than risk disappointing or angering millions of supporters. Beyond that, the culture of cricket in both nations has elevated the India-Pakistan clash to something far bigger than sport. Fans remember past matches like chapters of history. Every six, every wicket, every victory, and every defeat becomes part of collective memory. When such weight is attached to a game, the environment leaves little room for gestures of camaraderie. For many fans, the handshake seems unnecessary when the battle is supposed to symbolize rivalry and national dominance. The cricketers, therefore, step onto the field fully aware of this emotional intensity, and when the match ends, drained and conscious of the scrutiny, they walk away without reaching out a hand. It is not that they lack respect for one another, it is that they know how their people may perceive such actions. And in the end, the weight of the crowd's expectations dictates their choices, overshadowing what should have been a simple moment of human connection. The third reason why Indian and Pakistani players often avoid shaking hands before and after matches is rooted in the sheer psychology of fierce competition. Unlike most cricketing encounters, this rivalry is not played as just another game on the calendar. It is fought as if every delivery carries the weight of history, pride, and national emotion. The players step onto the field knowing that the margin for error is tiny and the consequences of failure are immense. In such an atmosphere, adrenaline surges, nerves tighten, and focus sharpens to a level where even the simplest acts of courtesy can feel unnatural or forced. The players are not cold or disrespectful. They are consumed by the battle, and in that heightened zone, the handshake is often lost to the intensity of the contest. Imagine a bowler charging in with the weight of a nation on his shoulders, every step powered by the thought of dismissing a rival batsman who symbolizes the other side's strength. Or a batsman, eyes burning with determination, carrying not only his team's hopes, but the pride of millions watching him. In these moments, opponents are not friends. They are obstacles that must be broken. The psychological state required to perform under such pressure pushes players into a zone where emotions run hotter than usual. When the game ends, the exhaustion is not just physical, it is mental, even spiritual. Players are drained, their minds replaying every mistake, every success, every near miss. Extending a hand in those moments does not feel like the priority. Another layer to this is the rivalry's reputation as one of the fiercest in world sport. Both sides know that any sign of leniency, any moment of softness, will be interpreted as weakness. They push themselves to be warriors, not companions, and that mindset spills over into how they behave before and after the game. It is important to note that many of these cricketers share warm relationships when they meet in neutral settings or play together in foreign leagues where the political and emotional baggage does not exist. They laugh, they train, they bond. But when it comes to India versus Pakistan, the rivalry transforms them into gladiators, driven by focus and fueled by pride. The handshake, though symbolic of sportsmanship, becomes overshadowed by the storm of competition, not because respect is absent, but because the fire of the contest leaves no space for gestures that belong to calmer waters. So, why can't Indian and Pakistani players shake hands before and after matches? It's not about hatred, and it's not about arrogance. It is about history, about pressure, and about the kind of competition that transforms even the smallest gestures into statements. Yet, I believe the day will come when cricketing spirit will rise above these barriers, and the handshake will once again be what it was always meant to be, a symbol of respect, unity and love for the great game we all share,